4 days ago, AOC said something really dumb and wrong. That alone, of course, would not be particularly newsworthy, since the news typically endeavors to present stories that are unusual. But this particular viral diatribe caught my attention, not because AOC's argument is wrong, but because it is perfectly wrong. Take a listen.
I think it's important to state that that abortion is an economic issue. Forcing poor and working class people to give birth against their will, against their consent, against their ability to provide for themselves or a child is a profound economic issue, and it's certainly a way to keep a workforce basically conscripted to large-scale employers and to employers to work more against their will, to take second and third jobs against their desire and their own autonomy. And so the idea that that abortion and access to abortion is somehow not a profound and central economic and class issue and class struggle is certainly something that I think a person who's never had to contend with the ability to carry a child, it belies that perspective.
So AOC's argument is that abortion is an important tool of the working class, of the proletariat, to shake off the bonds of its capitalist oppressors. But if that's the case, then how come all the big corporations are subsidizing it? How come after the Dobbs decision came down overruling Roe v. Wade, how come Google and Walmart and Amazon and pretty much every big company in the country sent out a press release promising to reimburse the costs of female employees who want to travel out of state to abort their babies? Abortion is a class issue, but not in the way AOC thinks. Actually, in exactly the opposite way. Abortion, much like AOC, is a tool of wealthy capitalists to squeeze more productivity and therefore more money out of their labor force. Women who have babies take more time off during pregnancy, during maternity leave, even after they come back to work. If they come back to work, mothers are more distracted with their kids' doctor's appointments and Little League and piano recitals and all the sorts of things that make them less ideal as automatons churning out widgets in the factory for big boss penny bags. It's much, much more efficient from a money standpoint for the capitalists to just encourage the women and even pay the women to kill their kids so that they can get back to the office and do more spreadsheets. If AOC had an ounce of introspection, she might stop to ask herself why pretty much all of the wealthiest and most powerful people in the country support her. Why she gets such glowing treatment in the corporate press. Why she gets invited to all of the fancy events with all the rich people. Why AOC rakes in more big dollar campaign donations than pretty much any politician of her stature in the country. If AOC were really a renegade radical fighting the evil and entrenched capitalist establishment, wouldn't you expect that that establishment might not fawn over her constantly? In reality, AOC is no renegade. She is no radical. She is certainly no threat to the system. The system attacks and silences and prosecutes the only real people who question or oppose it, which is to say conservatives. The system will throw Midwestern grannies in jail for taking selfies in the Capitol Rotunda. It'll raid Donald Trump's home on bogus charges if he gets a little bit too high up in the polls for 2024. But it will never go after AOC. At least as long as she continues, as we see now, to do its bidding. The class struggle, pseudo-communist rhetoric coming out of the left is so silly. It's so ridiculous. So much of our political system is just so fake. And I think it's becoming clearer and clearer. Donald Trump in particular exposed a lot of it as being so fake that what we see is two sides locked in the struggle, the far left and the far right, and they're fighting each other. That it's really just kind of a charade very often. It's kind of just political theater. And no matter what happens in these battles, the system, the kind of liberal establishment system, just sort of always wins. You see this on On certain issues, they don't change no matter who wins. The left wins, the right wins, we get more and more immigration, and more illegal immigration for that matter. The left wins, the right wins, we just keep offshoring our jobs. The left wins, the right wins, we keep getting more globalist government, whether that means through trade treaties or whether that means through giving more of our national sovereignty away. It just doesn't seem to, whether the left wins or the right wins, we get the exact same foreign policy. A lot of it just seems like a charade. I don't think the political battle in this country is between the communists on one side and the fascists on the other side. I think it's between two slightly different variations of liberals. You see this with Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, who came out and she said, look, we need more mass migration because, not first because of justice, not first because of these poor oppressed masses yearning to be free, but no, because we need someone to pick the crops.
The fact is that we have a responsibility to secure our border. We also have a responsibility to recognize the importance of newcomers to our nation. Right now, the best thing that we can do for our economy is to have comprehensive immigration reform. We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize our moral responsibility as well.
Notice what she leads with. She doesn't say we need more migrants in this country because it's the right thing to do, or because American foreign policy has destabilized Latin America, or because we're a melting pot and no, she says we need more workers. She's making a capitalist argument. AOC is shilling on behalf of the capitalists to get women to sit in their offices and stay in their jobs and not have the temerity to want to raise a family. That's why the capitalists fund all of these people. The dominant power in this country that conservatives need to fight against is actually not the communists or even the socialists. They're a problem too, but they're a relatively minor problem. The problem is the liberals. The menace in our country is not Joseph Stalin, it's Bill Clinton, okay? It's neoliberal, kind of crony capitalist, money above all else, to the detriment, and I think really destruction of communities, families, the traditional way of life, our national borders, for goodness sakes. Everything, it's money. The libs want the open borders. They've got a whole lot of reasons for wanting the open borders. They say they've got social reasons. They certainly have political reasons and electoral reasons. But the reason they got a lot of oomph behind it is because open borders is good for the crony capitalists, you know? It's not the commies exactly. And conservatives, I think we're figuring this out now. We've certainly been figuring out a little bit more since Trump. We should not reflexively be defending big corporations or even the free market as an end unto itself. Markets are great. Market dynamics can be a wonderful thing for economic growth in a country, but it's not the be-all and end-all, okay? It's not an end unto itself. That would be putting the cart before the horse. The end of government is justice. The end of government is a flourishing society where we're all getting along and growing and living together in a good country. Okay, we want the general welfare. We want the common good. We want to live in a nice place. We were talking about this a week or two ago. You would much rather be a poor man in a good society than a rich man in a society falling apart. Because even your wealth is contingent on the stability and flourishing of your society. Okay, if you're a rich man in Afghanistan, well, you're probably not going to stay a rich man very long because the Taliban's going to show up and take your money. Okay, that's what we need to focus on here. We need to stop. I remember when I was coming up in politics, when I was a teenager, first kind of learning about politics, the Republicans and the conservatives, they just carried water for big corporations. Even when the corporations attacked us, even when they started to censor us, you heard arguments from people ostensibly on the right who said, well, you know, we can't regulate Google, the most powerful company on earth. We can't regulate that. If you don't want to be censored and kicked out of the public square in your self-governing republic, in your formerly self-governing republic, then just build your own Google. Yeah, that's a solution. It's preposterous. And it does nothing but advance the interests of what we would call the left. We do have more show coming up, though. What we've got to get to is a rap song from a Utah State Senate candidate, a Republican Utah State Senate candidate. I have never heard this rap song before, but it's Music Monday. So my producer, Ben Davies, has lined up this song for me. I can't wait to listen to it. That show is continuing right now. You don't want to miss it. If you're not a member, click on the link in the description and join us.